the first conversation, as I said, you're going to get their issue, you're going to have them talk to you about what their issue is, you're going to kind of agitate them, get them to think about why the situation is the way it is. You can lay out this vision and a plan, like we have a broad vision, right? We're going to organize this out. We have a very broad vision. We have a plan to do that, right? Which is to engage workers in multiple workplaces across the geography, and then to take up issues in a public venue and try to make improvements in the workplace. And then we're going to ask them to take an action. So I heard a lot of discussion yesterday about how workers are afraid. I want to define what they're afraid of. I think workers are afraid of losing, right? Are they afraid of winning? So how do we move workers who are in a position of some fear to be in a place where they feel like they can win and are willing to take some risks? I'm pretty linear in my thinking. I have it here. So the first thing, again, they have to have an issue that they care about. You have to know what that issue is. You have to be able to agitate them on that issue and have them come to an understanding that they would like to make that issue better. But then they have to believe that the plan that you're laying out has some chance of victory. Right? The plan that you're talking to them about, they might win. They could win. Right? And if they think they can win, they might be willing to set aside their fear for a minute and try. Right? If they think they're going to lose, people always say, oh, workers don't like conflict. Bullshit. They don't like conflict that they think they're going to lose. They don't like conflict they think they're going to win. Right? I love conflict that I think I'm going to win, and I hate conflict I think I'm going to lose. Right? So you want to have people think that they can win because the plan makes so much sense. And then the last piece is they have to understand their role in making that victory possible. Right? If they believe that the plan can work, and they believe that by their participating, they increase the likelihood that the plan will work, you can probably, in a lucky moment, if you're like really focused and you're approaching it in a way that is very open-minded, open-hearted, you might convince them that they should take what they might be afraid to do. They might be willing to do what they're afraid to do because they believe that if they do, it increases the likelihood that they win and the issue gets addressed. Okay? So in the first conversation, let's just assume that you already know the issue. I'm just going to make one up. How many people here have issues at work where your boss cancels your shift, makes you work overtime without telling you in advance? Okay, all you union folks, that doesn't happen a lot. How many people here does that happen to, though? Right. So when you're going to a non-union workplace, there are tons of people who their boss just makes up their schedule on the spot, changes it without telling them, cancels their shift, makes them work overtime. There's all kinds of scheduling issues. It's part of this like just-in-time kind of work, right? Just in time, or as we used to say in the nursing profession, not quite on time. Right? And so assume that they have issues with this so-called just-in-time workforce, right? And then your job here in this role play is to sort of lay out the vision and a plan that can address that issue. Right? So you want to always be circling back. When you're talking about something, you want to make sure you're always circling back to the thing they told you they care about. Okay? And then, in the first conversation, our vision is that we're going to have a network, 5, 6 workplaces, we're going to have cadre, we're going to have committees, we're going to have all this stuff. But the very first thing you're going to ask somebody to do is not go leaflet some other workplace. The very first thing you're going to do is ask them to talk to their coworkers. Again, no conflict with what got raised earlier today. Right? The very first thing you have to do is ask them to do a thing that is possible for them to do and important and meaningful. Right? You're not asking people to go count the paper clips. You're asking them to do something that is important and meaningful. And that is to talk to their coworkers about the issue that they have and to ask them to be part of a movement to address that issue. And so part of how you explain the vision was talking about your story, right? And so you incorporate that in to the discussion that you're having, right? Because you're not just, like an organizer robot, right? You're a person, you have a life, you have issues, you have concerns, you have feelings, right? And so when you raise your story as part of explaining the vision and the plan for the Southern Workers Assembly, you sort of bring them in. That's part of being open-minded and open-hearted, right? So you're in the struggle with them, right? And you're sharing with them and they're sharing with you. I just want to have a union. Did anybody say that? No. People will say that. When someone says, I just want to have a union. Well, SWA is not a union, right? We don't have the capacity or resources to get people over that line, we're going to have an RC election, we're going to have a majority on that magic day when the vote happens, we're going to help them get a first contract. Like, we just don't have the resources or the capacity to do that. But there is a group that we can send them off to, actually several groups we can send them off to. We heard from the Union of Southern Surface Workers last night, the Rail Workers Union, the Truckers Movement for Justice, the one that we didn't hear from last night. But there is one that we didn't hear from last night, but I want to turn the microphone on for a minute to have them explain who they are, what they are, and so when you run into that, you don't just say the speaking now, right? You have something to say. So, and a turn over to
Thank you, everybody. I'm Patrick, Chattanooga, Tennessee. I'm the organizing coordinator for the Emergency Workforce Organizing Committee. A few of folks here who are organizers with us. If you want to become a volunteer in organizing experience, we want to be trained to come on board. But to Libby's point, we've been around since the beginning of the pandemic, which we help people do. People who are facing issues in a specific workplace want to build towards a majority take action. Oftentimes, we move towards in our elections. We're happy to support them to do that. Every case, it's not always what we do, but we help people build worker power inside a workplace aspect. So yes, we can be prepared for that. The Senator's election in New York that unfortunately went to a tie. I lost in New York was a new election supporting as well as in the Bay Area, but all Chipotle workers, Starbucks workers, nurses, janitors, doctors, we organize it all. So go to our website, Emergency Workplace Organizing Committee.org, I believe. You just Google UWOC, we come up. And we want to take a strategic partnership with SWA because the work they're doing is so important. The last thing I'll say, turnover, big sluggish turnover problem. Turnover in service industry is anywhere between 80 to 100% annually. Like we cannot stick to a workplace. Amazon is 300% in a single warehouse. The workplace turns over 3 times a year. So we need to follow workers and we need to build, consciousness of worker power with the worker, not just in a given workplace. So it's all tied together. So I just want to say thank you for and share with me. And if you have more questions, please come.
So SWA and EWOC have been having a lot of conversations about how do we collaborate. We have a lot of overlapping things that we do, but we also have things that are different from each other. And so how do we collaborate to make sure that workers have an I think there's 2 more people. Oh, and by the way, I am a volunteer organizer with EWOC. So everybody should do it. Cass, Lisa, Wilson? Okay, we're going in that order. Cass, Lisa, Wilson.
Thank you. My name is Cass Alvin, and I'm the organizer with UE50 here in Charlotte. And we had a nice group going here, but we had a couple of different dynamics going. One was talking about someone who is an immigrant and being at a work site and being exploited and not being paid enough for hourly wages, but also not knowing their rights. And so not understanding their rights. So we talked about, coming up with the leaflet and being able to educate folks around their rights, branching out to see how many other immigrants are there that are facing the same issue, and then getting them together as a group. And so it was a really good conversation. I think everybody over here came up with some really good ideas about how to do that, and then branching out on a larger issue that affects the whole workplace. So starting with smaller individual issues and then branching it out to a larger issue that impacts everyone. Thank you.
Thank
So I try to organize my workplace and the work is Flatwoods Consulting Group, where I had to leave, but it was a small intellectual consulting firm. So everyone there that was working were all ecologists. We go into very adverse conditions, or like chest deep in the swamp, identifying plants, but like the safety conditions, like a lot of issues, there's uncompensated time, working on the weekends, that kind of thing. Anyways, there's a bunch of issues. I try to organize some folks. I guess what I was going to say was, I just keep putting in my mind, like, what could I have done to make it work? But basically, we were trying to figure out, who were our partners, who were the militant people. And then, because we didn't want to, like, advertise everything that we're doing ahead of time. We just wanted to get, like, everyone's signatures on a document, and it was a kind of unified document that gave it to the owners at that point, so that our speech was protected and people didn't feel like they were sticking their neck out for their research up. So I guess what I was wondering was, why didn't it work was people were just leaving. And so we just the bottom fell out, right? They just didn't want to stick around to fight. So I wonder if part of this should be lowering the risk on entry. So leveraging technology, having conversations so that the people who don't even think about it, because like having those thoughts might make you a troublemaker or something and fireable. If they're just experiencing the chatter online, like in a chat group or something, like just to see that there's numbers here. Most of us are behind you. You just need to come over, and then once we do this, you'll be protected. Like I think that's one of the feelings that I have. Do you understand what I'm saying?
you want to say that does speak to what Liam raised earlier, which is to have a social media presence that people can, you gather up all your contacts, and then once you have all that, then you can have the one-on-one and move people more into action. So yeah, I think, so hopefully we'll all have lunch together. I'll attend again and we can all talk about that. Joseph.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to say thank you all for being in attendance here. My name is Joseph. I'm with the CPUSA here in Charlotte. I just wanted to speak a little bit about the experience I've had. I have been in the service industry since I was about 17. I am 28 now. I have flitted between one job or another, running up my string for as long as I can, because I run out of those strings because I usually spend my time there trying to convince people, like, hey, we only need 30% of the vote to get the union election going. We only need 51 plus to get the election approved. But of course, in the service industry, that's very precarious. The conversation we were having, one of us, we were talking about how we have coworkers who are migrants who precarious legal status and such, and talking with them is very difficult because they have, of course, the looming threat of ICE hanging over their head at any given time. So it seems like building communities of solidarity, people that come out, and if any of our less than legal brothers and sisters are in danger, then it would be incumbent on us to come out there and to try to show support and try to, if best we can, stop any kind of action being taken against them. And I believe that also goes to my party here, like you are the CPUSA, and I understand that here in America there's a good bit of anti-communist rhetoric. But at the same time, the fortunes of the CPUSA and the labor movement generally have risen and fallen together. We communists have been some of the most steadfast supporters of labor, and we will continue to be so until there is just no more labor fight to be fought. And so I guess with all that, I just wanted to say, the CPUSA is here. We're going to do everything we can to try to help cultivate solidarity. And if there's anything we can do, please feel free to reach out to me or any of our fellow members. So, thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate having the community. Okay. Oh, we have one more. We have time for, I think, two more, and then lunch.
Just wanted to mention real quick, that recently a memo was released. I'm sorry that I'm blanking on the names and stuff, but somebody sounds like they might know about it. That kind of gives like protected status to undocumented workers who are organizing. I will research it and I'll let you know what it is, but like it literally happened this year, I think, something like that.